Hey, what's happening, CS Tiers? Welcome to the big show here on Monday evening. Lots to discuss. We're so glad you're with us here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I am Subs. As I mentioned, a lot to discuss. FC Cincinnati making a couple of player moves today. And believe it or not, we've got soccer coming up Friday night in the Queen City. Feels good to say that, doesn't it?
Heck yeah.
Of course, we want to hear from you. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com is the email address. You can also get in touch with us via Twitter as well at Cincy Soccer Talk. Coming up here in just a few moments, we'll speak with Laurel Pfahler. She's one of the beat writers covering FC Cincinnati. She broke the news last night regarding Kekuta Manneh and Fatai Alashe being traded by FC Cincinnati. So we'll discuss with her the news that came out today. A little bit later on in the show, we will be joined by Jared DuBois and Jason Davis of the Best Soccer Show. They just recently returned after a couple of years off. And so we're going to get their thoughts on the FC Cincinnati, Major League Soccer, the U.S. men's national team, and the women's national team now that there's news surrounding Rose Lavelle. Of course, we'll be reading your comments in the chat tonight, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And as always, if you are listening later via the podcast, again, the email address to get a hold of us is feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let's welcome back into the show the one and only Brian Weigel. Brian, how you been, buddy? You have a good weekend?
Yeah, not too bad. Got to hang out with in the evil empire of Indianapolis this weekend. So, actually we own that empire. I think we own that stadium as well. So no, it was nice to be up there seeing some family, but excited to get back into some FC Cincinnati this week.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's just 4 days away. I mean, we have a full week of shows, right? It's crazy. It's like back to normalcy around here. But glad to have you on the show. Yeah, somewhat, right? Glad to have you back on the show. We're also glad to have back on the professor, Jeff Wallner. Jeff, how you been, bud?
Good. How about you? It's good to be back.
I could have had a better weekend, but we don't need to talk about that result on Sunday.
It's a match week. We're all in a good mood. We actually have a match to talk about. So
I like the positivity. I'm with you there, Jeff. But glad to have you on the show as well. And last but not least, we certainly welcome back the pro. He puts the pro in professional, Michael Lahoud. Michael, how you been, buddy? Did you have a good vacation?
Thanks for welcoming me back. Vacation went well. I'm rested. I got my base coat tan in, so looking forward to tonight's show.
Oh, that's great. Well, again, appreciate you being with us, Michael. Looking forward to getting your thoughts on the news from today. FC Cincinnati making a couple of player moves with Kekuta Manneh and Fatai Alashe. Of course, like I said, we're going to be joined by Laurel Pfahler here in just a moment. So I'll start with you, Bri. You saw the news. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, I think I was going to bring this up to her a little bit later, but I think if you take context out of the whole thing and you're just like an impartial observer, I think you look at it like, God, FC Cincinnati got fleeced on a couple of these deals. So on that front, not happy about that. But at the end of the day, the business was necessary. These moves had to be done to turn the page and move forward. And props to Gerard Nijkamp for at least getting that done and helping to keep the ball rolling.
Yes, we knew there was going to be some movement, right? Especially with the improvement that this squad needs to make. They were looking overseas without an international roster slot. Now they have acquired that in today's trade. So this is why we are bringing Laurel on the show. And actually, we've got Laurel now on the phone with us. She joins us now. Laurel Pfahler, beat writer, covering FC Cincinnati.com. Laurel, welcome back to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. You broke the news last night. Kekuta Manneh and Fatai Alashe both being traded. Give us your thoughts and why these moves had to be made.
Well, I mean, you could hear the just frustration almost from Gerard Nijkamp last week when he was talking to us on his press conference Thursday. He was kind of making it seem like things just weren't going his way, and then we saw Tyler Blackett, who had been linked to the club, go and sign with Nottingham Forest because they didn't have that international spot. And so that's what this really was about was, they ended up getting more than an international spot by trading two players, but the international spot was what Gerard really was needing. And it seemed like some things had kind of fallen through before this, and he was getting a little frustrated. You could sense from just some of the comments he was making about just kind of tempering the expectations and, we need to make some room in the roster and we need an international spot to get some of these deals done. So being able to trade Kakuta for that international spot, which actually is a great move for him too. I think he just wasn't going to get a lot of playing time here, and they have some other plans, it seems, for maybe that right wing spot. So yeah, it's big for him, and it's good for the club to get the spot, the international slot that they need to hopefully make some more moves. And then Fatai going to Columbus. I'm not sure quite how he fits in the picture there, but they open some cap space with that, and then if he meets certain performance standards, then they'll get some GAM out of it. So right now it's a draft pick next year, which doesn't sound all that great, but it does make some room in the roster. So that's key.
Yeah, it opens up some spots to fill some needs, frees up potentially some allocation money to potentially buy down a DP or maybe even bring in, some allocation money players, TAM players, value players that are above the max contract. Looking at these on a micro level, do you think that FC Cincinnati got fair value for these trades, or do you think it was just let's keep the business and keep the ball rolling, kind of how I said before you jumped on here?
I think they got a pretty good deal out of all of it. Everyone probably looks at that draft pick with the tie and thinks, well, that's what does that do for us? But considering we need to overhaul the roster that they've talked about. They started doing that last summer, did it some more in the winter, and, they want to make a big splash going into the West End Stadium next year. So in terms of just going on that process and being able to make some of the moves now is really important. They have to open up. They had to get that international spot. We know that Gerard looks at foreign players, and, they do have that allocation spot that they could do something with as well, but to be able to, he already lost out on one player that it seemed was pretty interested in coming, and Tyler Blackett. And so when you see that fall through, you want to get these deals done. And, he also mentioned in Europe how you would basically have an agreement with a club to make a swap or whatever, and it'd be done. And here he's kind of learning that you have deals, and then the next day something changes. You've got to go through the league on everything. So there's some big challenges. And so I think just in terms of being able to open the door for them to make the moves that they want to move, just start working on improving the roster more. I think that's where the value comes, just in that they need to start making these moves. So
you did mention Tyler Blackett, and there was some smoke there. We saw our favorite scout in chief GW there make some tweets about a potential signing. Knowing Gerard must have known that they were at least close within the last couple days getting that international spot, and of course Tyler Blackett just signed with Nottingham Forest. Don't you think they probably would have been able to at least tell Blackett, okay, we're close, let's wait? Or do you think it was more or less like he didn't want to come here to FC Cincinnati, or maybe had a better offer at Nottingham? Did you have any indication there?
It kind of just seemed like the process had drawn out longer than he wanted it to. And from what I've heard, there were some agreements that would have opened up, or that would have given FC Cincinnati an international spot. And those fell through. So I think that, Tyler, I don't know, personally, I haven't talked to Tyler Blackett or his agent, but it seems like he just kind of got to the point where he had been told this was going to happen, or, it seemed like it was going to happen and it just didn't. And it was time to move on. After, Thursday was when Gerard talked to us, and he was sounding a little down on things. And then I spoke to some people over the weekend, and there was some hope then that something was going to work out, but it was already after it had been announced that Tyler Blackett was going to Nottingham. And I think the timing just didn't work out the way that they had hoped on that one.
Hey, Laurel, it's Jeff Wallner. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Nice
Just
to
curious,
talk to you on here.
Yeah. Just curious your thoughts on this from a roster standpoint. If you look at Mane and you look at Fatai Alashe, Mane started the first game at MLS's back tournament against Columbus, and then we didn't see him until Portland. He was a late sub. Alashe came off the bench in all 4 matches. And you look at the emergence of Joe Zhao and some other factors. Do you feel like in some sense kind of the writing was on the wall in terms of Kekuta Mane and Fatai Alashe's role with this club moving forward?
Yeah, I got a sense that something was going to happen in the midfield for sure, because in that press conference Thursday, Gerard said, if we end up moving some midfielders. And when he said that, I was like, okay, because he was saying that they want to bring in some different types of midfielders. So Fatai, I think that they saw some value in him, but they just knew that he wasn't in the plans as far as just, if they're going to have these games coming up where the schedule's so compact, they're going to be rotating a lot. And I just think that they wanted to get a different type of player that could fit their needs in the midfield. Because, you have like Caleb Stanko. I think they were impressed with him in the MLS's back tournament. And it's just getting a little crowded there in the midfield as far as when they're rotating and playing different types of ways. They've got a few guys that just, Fatai fits the mold the same as, some of the other guys they've got. Kekuta was kind of interesting because you heard Gerard also say that they wanted pacey wingers. Well, that's exactly what Kekuta was. So, but yeah, he just, something he didn't fit, whatever they were looking for out of that Columbus game. He played 53 minutes. They weren't getting what they wanted out of him in that moment and moved on to a new plan. And I just think that Joe Zhao did really impress. And I think that he kind of earned a little bit more of a chance there. And they saw a chance to get that international spot and give Kekuta some more playing time possibly in New England. I think it was one of those things where it almost seems like they wanted to help him out too, because they felt like he could do more for them, but he just wasn't going to get the opportunities.
Hey, Laurel, Michael Lahoud here. It's good to have you. Quick question for you.
Yeah, thanks.
So with all these moves being made so close to Friday's game, have you heard any news on where FC Cincinnati, wants to prioritize using this international spot?
The only thing I've heard recently is that when I was hearing that there were going to be these moves, there was optimism that this was being done so that another move with a player coming in would soon to be announced. I haven't heard, even a position at this point of what it could be, but yeah, I mean, right now they are below what they are with the roster. They've got, what do they have, 17, so they need to get 18 to be compliant, or else I think they're hit with, I forget what the penalty is, but I remember seeing something today on Twitter about it, but it was a good reminder. I should look that up. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I think that, they did this with the thought that there would be a signing coming up pretty soon.
All right. Well, Laurel, we appreciate you being on the show. Tell folks up there about who are listening to our show what you're doing as far as the Patreon, because you've been breaking a lot of news and a lot of information out there with the new thing you're doing. Tell folks about that.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of people have been asking me about Patreon. It was something that, I was writing for The Athletic, and in March, right around all the time everything shut down, they froze the freelance budget at The Athletic. And so I'm kind of still in a waiting period with them. And, I still write for WCPO.com, but with them, I've always kind of been doing a once a week story and then game analysis. So I go on all the Zoom calls. I'm still keeping up on everything with the team, and I just felt like I still wanted to do more writing. So my husband actually follows some people on Patreon that cover Reds. They do some Reds minor league stuff, and they're on Patreon with that. And so he gave me the idea to check it out. And so, yeah, it basically gives me a chance to do more writing. I do have a subscription base out of it, so it is paid content only for the most part. That helps me make up for some lost income. And but it's just nice to have the flexibility to write what I want and get a little something back for it.
Totally understandable. You're doing a great job with it as well. Go check it out. Patreon.com/Laurel Pfahler FC Cincinnati. Laura, appreciate the time. Looking forward to having you back on the show here real soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Not a problem. That's Laurel Pfahler, FC Cincinnati beat writer, been covering the team since day one, all the way back in their USL days as well. So we appreciate her being on the show. A lot to digest there, right, gents? We got a couple of listener questions as well. This one from, let me pull this up here. This is from the gag, right, Bri? This is, let's see here. Would you classify this as a forced move to get an international spot acquisition?
I think you tie that into another question with what he says. Everybody knew FCC was looking to get an international spot. Does that hurt the market? And I got to say, you have two cases here, very interesting. You have Nashville SC, who's really gone hard in that domestic route, really tried to maintain the flexibility in the international signings. And honestly, with our new general manager and football operations staff, they've gone hardcore international signings to improve, every possibility. They don't have the domestic infrastructure. Yes, we have Hunter Freeman, but really Gerald Nykamp's bread and butter is that international market. So if I'm a GM or a technical director for any other team in Major League Soccer, and I get a phone call from Gerard saying, "Hey, what do you think about your international spot? Do you have an extra one?" I'm going to take whatever I normally would trade it for and then multiply it by at least half or two, 1.5 or 2 to get some value. So yeah, that's a tough job. When you're already playing poker essentially with these guys, but they can honestly see 4 of your 5 cards in your hand when we go this route.
Yeah. I know we haven't had a chance, Michael, to ask you your thoughts on these moves. Obviously, Fatai being a midfielder, much like yourself. When you saw this news, what immediately came to mind for you?
Well, my first thoughts were about Friday's game. We've had some time leading up to this. If we were going to do this move, why do it 4 days before the game? And also, if you look at the timing of it, there's added pressure now that forces you to potentially make a scramble move or scramble decision so you don't get penalized for having less than 18 players. So I agree with the thought process of, hey, let's clear some cap space. Let's get an international spot. If we're going to be a club that focuses more on international players, let's do that. But I think the timing puts added pressure that might open the door to make a rash decision. But as always, these things, it's poker. So just when you think that, the chips are on the table and they're showing all their cards, GMs have a way of making a shock move and having everything, in the back room waiting to happen. So I hope that's the case for this, but I think it puts added pressure on the club to make a move to get someone just to fill in the gap.
You have two high character guys in Alashe and Mane, leaders in their own right. We've seen Fatai Alashe come out publicly in this Black Lives Matter and really be a leader and a front face. And I'm really sad that he's leaving the club. But this question's for Michael here. How does this, like these two guys, you've been training with them, they've been in Orlando, you've been, brothers in arms over the past several months, and all of a sudden they're gone. How's that affect the locker room?
When they're two quality guys, it can either rattle the locker room or it can bring guys together. I think with trades like this, if I'm a player in that locker room, my thought process is, you know what? The club is looking to make changes and the club is looking to get better and grow. But what I see from this is there's a movement away from the old guard from last year. I think with the new stadium coming in, it's almost like, let's move aside from some of these contracts that the club has signed and some of the guys that didn't pan out, and let's prep for next season and really, also focus on this season. Let's make these moves now so we have a fresh start for next season with a new stadium, and there's excitement that's building towards that.
So we know from a roster compliance standpoint, right? They've got to be at 18 players. I believe it's by Friday for the match, Jeff. So when you look at this, you see this move go down today. It kind of leads you to believe that they must have something already in the works, because otherwise that's a short time frame to get somebody in, get a physical done, especially if they're overseas. I mean, that I'd like to think that they know what they're doing here, and somebody's already lined up, and we should probably be hearing about it relatively soon.
Well, we'd like to think so. I think that was my first thought when I saw the rumors for both deals is just how do we connect the dots between these transactions and the next move and how it relates to some of the rumors that are out there. So yeah, we'll have to see. It's going to be really interesting, but I agree with you. I would expect that something would happen pretty quick. And Michael and Brian both brought up very good points on these deals. I think in any sport, the best transactions are the ones that serve multiple benefits, and this does. There's a financial benefit. There's a roster flexibility benefit. They get the international spot. They get two of their more popular players in good places. Obviously, Columbus is a great destination right now. New England's been really aggressive in the window already. So I think all around, it's really a positive for everyone involved. The one missing piece is, what is FC Cincinnati's next move? And we're going to find out really soon what that is.
Yeah, with the movement there today of Fatai Lashe, that leaves just two players from the USL squad, that last squad that Michael was on, actually, there in 2018, Jimmy McLaughlin and Spencer Ritchie. We mentioned Tyler Blackett. He was strongly linked to FC Cincinnati. He signs over the weekend with Nottingham Forest. And then today the news came that FC Cincinnati acquired a international spot, which they would have needed anyway to sign Blackett. Something tells me that this wasn't all that close in the first place, right? It seemed more like, hey, we're going to test and see what kind of offer we might get, but I don't know how realistic this really was. Do you agree with that take, Brian?
I think there's absolutely smoke there. I mean, you've heard it from several different people. Fortunately, on our end, I think we've actually heard more smoke on Goetze than we did Blackett officially. But I do agree with you. And I was trying to get it a little bit earlier, is that something had to have happened there. I mean, I don't know if he just got impatient and he got a big money offer from Nottingham and we just couldn't match it and lost out there. I think that's a lot more plausible than us just being like blaming the international spot. And I think there is an argument to be made why there needs to be international caps versus maybe domestic minimums. I think that's a good argument to have on getting the level of the league better. But yeah, it doesn't seem kosher, I guess you could say, on the Blackett front.
Yeah, and trust me, as a fan of Manchester United, Michael, you can attest to this as well. How many transfer rumors are started? Oh, he's linked to this club, right? It almost seems like maybe Blackett and his management, and by the way, this is their job, might have used FC Cincinnati here to get a better deal for their player. And clearly it worked.
Yeah. In these type of moves, look, two things for me. From the player standpoint, you're going to use everything you can. It's poker. You're going to try and force someone's hand and say, hey, if you don't give me a contract here, I'm going to go there. And from a management standpoint, what I always am curious about is it's a little bit dangerous to start getting in the habit of blowing smoke. It's dangerous, for fans. It's dangerous for the organization. Maybe dangerous is probably too strong of a word, but I like to see when moves are done and, to see news about, hey, there's a deal in the works, we're negotiating. You see other clubs, you see the Inter Miamis, and they're a different outfit with who they have. But when you hear other clubs around the league, it's not just smoke and mirrors. Sometimes it is, but look, if you're going to negotiate. But I'd like to see the club get more into a balance of, the smoke and mirrors and playing the game, but actually delivering. We have a game Friday, and I trust that there's a player coming in because you wouldn't put yourself in this position. However, I think there needs to be more of a balance from a recruitment standpoint on, domestic players. There are good domestic players in the U.S. They're out there, and I hope this situation is opening the eyes of management of saying, hey, we've gone the foreign route, we've gone the international route, and now let's test the domestic market. But because for the trades that were made, you could have gotten possibly, and we don't know what the other teams are going to do, but you could have gotten other players. You see what New England did by getting Tommy McNamara.
Matt Polster too.
Yeah, the Polsters. They're good domestic players that are out there and available. And so I hope while we're doing the international thing, I hope this forces more of a balance to the domestic front.
Agreed.
One thing, and Ken Hecker is our roster analyst / expert. He's been really banging the drum the last couple of days for signing these domestic players and how really important they are for this roster. And to see 2 domestic players shipped out today, Brian, that was kind of an eye opener for Ken. But at the same time, we posed this question as you hopped out a minute ago to take care of some family biz. Yeah. So I'm assuming you're under the impression that somebody is already signed and it's just waiting to be unveiled if they made this move today with a game coming up Friday.
I'd wager probably a good $20 that we have a signing by Friday. I think that's very logical. The fact that we have the allocation spot, whether that's dealing that for somebody or using that or even going in this international route. We have 17 senior roster spots filled right now. My guess is we go get 2. We don't need 20. I love Ken's point when he was talking about rebuilding the roster over the winter, is that we don't have to fill all 20 senior roster spots. Let's just go spend more on those 19 and get the floor risen. So I like that idea. I think 2 makes sense. Doesn't have to be all this week. We're open through October, so but I do imagine something's coming close. Hopefully a defender.
That's going to lead to my next question to you 3. Bry obviously wants a defender, but now you've lost a midfielder in Alashe and a winger in Mane. Where would you like to see them go, Michael?
I'd like to see them shore up the back line. Jaap Stam has shown that defense is a priority. And as we know, defense with championships, offense also doesn't hurt. Right now, very top heavy. So we have class players in Sim Tiong and Lacadia and Kubo and Ragaton. They showed that they have the goods to deliver on the goal front. And we have Cruz. I know during the tournament, I was doing my, where is Alan Cruz?
Yep.
And I'm glad we saw him because he's a good player. He's a DP. And, although we're a little thin in the midfield right now, man, this team is looking more and more assured at the back. And I'd like to see more reinforcements come in. If that's what defense is going to be our identity, I'd like to see a stud of sorts come in if you're going to go that route. But I always think of you shore up the back line, you get someone that's going to add something to what you already have and give you both a little bit offensively and give added leadership and just a presence there. And look, in the midfield, you have a veteran guy who has MLS veteran experience with Harris, and you have a rising star in Frankie, and Stanko is showing that he can do the job, and you have Cruz who can play in there. And if you really want to go for the goods, geez, we actually have attacking talent that is quite capable. So it's going to be dependent on what formation they stick with, and really what variety of combinations that Jaap wants to play, especially with the first game coming out, how he wants to go about it.
How about you, Jeff? Where do you want to see him go?
I'll agree with Michael, and I think we've seen we've gotten glimpses of how Jaap Stam wants to play. So it's obvious that they need to continue to build the defense. This club's going to score goals. I think the goals are there. So I think that's going to come for Lacadia and Kubo, but they need to continue to build the defense. That process, I'm not convinced. excuse me, that process is over, and that's been something that's been underway since last season. So yeah, continue to build from the back, and everything else will come together.
Anything to add there, Bri?
Remember when we thought when we were building this roster last season, the strength of our team was the defense? So it's amazing how things have changed. I think that right back spot needs to be addressed. Hell, even left back. Once you can figure out Andrew Gutman, I'm sure we'll discuss that later. But any of those three spots, if we can get a wing back or center back, I think we'd be all right going forward.
Well, we anticipate FC Cincinnati having to make a move by Friday, so we want to hear from you. What position is of need? Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let us know your thoughts. It's that time of the show where we give a big shout out and thanks to our tremendous supporters. So let's give it up for Tim Bronsel, Tom Rose, Matt Adamczyk, Mike Hudson, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Coling, Tara Mullins, Riley Stephen Burke, and Melissa Bingle. Thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. To learn more on how you can support the show, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, I'm excited about this next segment. I have been a huge fan of our next guests, a longtime listener of the Best Soccer Show back in the day. And of course, that parlayed into JD and the Rod. And now the Best Soccer Show is back. And so I'm really pleased to have on the show Jason Davis and Jared DuBois. Jason and Jared, how's it going? Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
Hi, Nick.
Nick is our boy.
We're on his turf, Jared. This is Nick's spot. This is where we are.
We wore the same shirt.
Yes, you did. You are matching. How cute.
We couldn't see each other in the green room. I would have swung out and changed real quick.
Had no idea. Yeah,
I love that. This is where Jason would play the "you've got to coordinate" drop.
Absolutely,
but he's probably not prepared for it.
No,
so, first of all, tell folks about the Best Soccer Show. You just launched last week after a couple years of actually almost a year of JD and the Rob. Now it's the Best Soccer Show again. So tell folks about the show, what it's all about.
All right, you want me to start, Jared? Or you want to take this?
You do the business, man.
Okay. All right. I'll give you a short timeline. Jared and I started doing a show 2012.
I think.
2012. We started doing a show together called The Best Soccer Show. We didn't know each other before the show started. I had been doing something. Jared had been messing around with a little podcast appearance here or there. Someone said, I think you would be good together. So we started doing a show. It did pretty well. We had a good time with it. We took it on the road a couple of different times, did it from a couple of different stadiums. We had a good following. And then, I ended up getting an offer to do SiriusXM radio. Jared kind of.
You have a radio show?
I do. Jared, did you know I have a radio show?
First time hearing of it.
Okay. So Jared at that time in his life had two little boys, two toddlers, and he was like, I kind of need to take a break. And he did. And I went about the radio gig for a while, but I always missed the Best Soccer Show. So last year, 2019, I put out one of those Google survey things, and I said, hey, who wants the Best Soccer Show to come back? Because Jared was like, I don't know if people really want to hear from us anymore. Like, we're tired. We're done. Like,
Old Dad FC, man.
Yeah. I mean, Old Dad FC is definitely a thing. So I got enough of a response to convince him to bring it back. And now we did, as Nick said, we did JD and the Rod for 9 months or so, 10 months.
10 months, yeah.
And somebody said, hey, we think you should bring back the Best Soccer Show. And here we are. And we have these t-shirts that don't really apply to anything anymore. That's fun.
Vintage.
Yeah, they're vintage shirts.
Collector's items.
What am I missing, Jared? Am I missing any part of that story?
That's it, man. US Soccer Talk. If it's a Euro, I don't want to talk about it.
I do think we are missing one little piece of information. Do we remember the jersey number from Nick from Toledo?
Oh,
jeez.
Oh my God.
That would be a soccer morning thing. I don't think
I don't think that was the best.
Oh no.
I think that was.
Dude, no.
I'm imagining it's the 22 that's framed behind you. It says Superliga above it. We just can't see it.
No, that's an Austin Berry jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I remember listening to you guys actually when I moved back from North Carolina, and this is before FC Cincinnati. I was trying to find like a home, and I gravitated a little bit towards Columbus Crew SC a little bit. Sorry,
we'll forgive you.
And just fell in love with the Best Soccer Show as well. Soccer Morning got me through some tough times and moved back. So I love that, and pleasure having you guys on here talking a little bit about Major League Soccer and FC Cincinnati. So. Talking about punching bags real quick, FC Cincinnati was a punching bag all last year, and then at the beginning of the MLS's back tournament, losing 4-0 to the Crew. Mm-hmm. How surprised were you guys that they're able to get past that 4-0 drubbing, get into the group stage, and perform fairly well in the tournament?
Well, let me first say, as the new league's rating a punching bag, as a fan of the LA Galaxy, I gotta say that it was a very big turn of fate.
Poor you.
MLS,
Poor you.
I listen, man. Yeah, poor me, man. You get accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and then all of a sudden, someone tells you that you're the new Cincinnati FC Cincinnati punching bag. That's rough.
Right.
I mean, literally, you guys are better than us right now. It is no debate. You watching those two teams, I guess it sucks being on the other side, but it's cool to see you guys on the come up. And looking at what your GM said just like 3 or 4 days ago about the transfer window, and like, listen, we don't have any spots. Hey, listen, we only have a little bit of cap space. In the last 2 days, he made roster space, got a spot, an international roster spot, and potential cash down the road. The dude is making, first of all, he was out front and open about telling you guys what he was going to do, and then did it within 3 or 4 days later. So that's a really cool thing. So in terms of punching bag, yes, last year definitely it was fun while it lasted, but I still don't think you guys are nearly out of the woods yet. But I think MLS is a league that goes from worst to first faster than any league in the world, and there's no reason why it can't be Cincinnati next.
Yeah, you could also go from first to worst, the way that the LA Galaxy have done.
Hey! Well, it took us a while. It's taken us about 7 years of consistent decline.
That's
You know,
right.
Well, I will have to say this, as an LA Galaxy fan, you should be okay. If you were in the position we were looking for an international roster spot, MLS would have just changed the rules for you.
Right.
if you want Chicharito, I can work a deal for you right now. You can have him.
Jared's a huge fan of Chicharito, by the way.
Yeah. But when you pair him up with Gonzalo Higuain, it's going to be magic, right?
Oh, it's gonna be fantastic. And I mean, you got to get him the ball, but other than that,
We
it's
don't know
great.
who's going to do that exactly quite yet. But
You got to
all right.
buy Higuain because the other guy can't finish. That's great.
Well, I know we're strictly forbidden from discussing, English football with you guys on, but real quick, I assume you've probably seen videos of Jaap Stam when he played for United. An absolute animal on defense. What are your impressions with the impact that he's already made, taking a club that leaked goals at an MLS record pace last year, and coming off that 4-0 loss to Columbus, and then all of a sudden you can call it parking the bus, call it what you want, but he got them to play stout defense for those next few matches and almost got them into the quarterfinals.
Well, I'd say this first of all. Jared used to be a Manchester United fan when he did care about
the 90s.
about the English Premier League, so he does know Jaap Stam from that period. Look, I think we prefer to talk about whether or not Jaap Stam's the guy you want in a bar fight. I don't know who we came down
I'll take
with.
him over any coach in the league if a brawl breaks out.
Okay, so there's that. But I think that in terms of how he has set up the team, I mean, that's what if you come in completely cold the way that he did after everything that happened, and we don't need to relive it. You guys, you were there, you watched the thing happen. If you come in cold with that and you don't quite have a grasp on the team and you don't know, I mean, I can understand maybe not being 100% defensively focused at the beginning because you don't want to get that rep. You don't want the fans to think, okay, this guy's going to come in, he's going to park the bus, it's going to be horrible soccer, we're not going to want to watch this. You want to at least give a nod in the direction, okay, let's see what I got. Again, he got walloped 4-0 by Columbus, and he said, okay, well, that's not going to work out, is it? We're not going to get results that way. And certainly the fans want results. And you guys, because of the way things went last year, they're at a premium. So I give him credit for that. I don't think there's really any other way you can handle it. And then as Jared just laid out, you incrementally build from there. There's not an expectation in Cincinnati. I mean, I was talking today. I said, what would you do if your team lost an important game 8-2? What happened to Barcelona? They have expectations. They fire their coach because they lost that game. If FC Cincinnati loses a game 8-2, they go, okay, let's go see if we can fix this. Maybe we'll play a little more defensively.
There's an old adage, teach what you know. So
Okay,
Jaap Stam
sure.
comes in as one of the best defenders of a generation, Champions League finalist. Yeah, he knows how to play defense, and you would expect his team to know how to play it. So come in, fix something early, fix the defense, because you can't win a game 0-0, but you also can't lose it 0-0. So start there, get that fixed, start making a spine from there. I think it's a smart way of going about it, and just fix the things and then down the road, let your GM get you the talent to do everything else. You can play good defense with subpar talent. It's communication, it's positioning. It's not always athleticism. So start there and then work into the other stuff and let your GM give you the tools to play the rest. And then 6 months from now, you need to start winning games 2-1, 3-1, 4-2 if you can, you know.
Well, you don't put a turbocharger in a car that doesn't run, right? You got to get the car to run first. So that's what that is. It's path of least resistance. You fix the thing and make it workable, and then you move on.
I'm so glad that you two brought that up, because I remember back in the second match, right? This was after they just got crushed 4-0 by the Crew. They're in that second match against Atlanta, and it was very clear that they were going to be stout defensively that day, right? And they got absolutely crushed. Even though they were up a man for a majority of the match, they got absolutely crushed. And I almost think that was probably Jaap Stam saying, whoa, we are going to defend and focus on that today.
Right.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I have a question for you. Speaking of expectations, and we all know big players change expectations for clubs. A guy that's been linked to FC Cincinnati is Mario Götze. What do you think it would mean to FC Cincinnati and MLS if a guy and a player of his caliber came to this club or the league?
It's not just what's it going to mean, what's it going to take? That's the real question, I think, first, because he said no to Miami. You know,
wait, we know that for a fact.
Okay, that's
no?
the rumor is that he said no to Miami. That's
but
the
I
rumor
don't
that
think
he said
that's
no.
an agent's trick, and I think that was probably trying to bring his value up a little bit.
Miami's the new LA. We always put it in the papers because it sounds sexy that you're
exactly
getting
right.
linked there. You know,
That's
it
exactly
is.
right.
So if Götze comes, you've got to prepare. Okay, so does that mean that you guys are going to play Lacadia as a 9? Is he going to be up front? Because Götze wants to play on the outside and cut in, or he wants to fall off the lead striker. You got to have a strong body holding that front, pushing the back 4, and giving him space to operate just underneath and just in from the outside. So if Jaap Stam's going to go after this, and this is the guys can take. First of all, name wise, fantastic, young and sexy, still beautiful. And
is he though? Because this is what I'm
he's still got
about.
Tiger Beat skills, dude.
No, I know, but obviously this is a guy that I think
pop sensation, man.
His name jumps off the page, right? His name absolutely does, and that would be fantastic in a place like Cincinnati, who needs to take these steps forward. You getting the stadium built and all that stuff. But is he going to hold up? Is he going to be? And I don't know what 2020 is going to bring, but 2021, when you're playing,
that's an impressive pedigree, a World Cup winner, still at a good age. He's marketable. Well, only thing I know is it's off-brand to go for a non-Dutch player. So like that's rough. I'm not sure how you guys are going to work that into your theme you have going out there, but it's only a country away. But I think Mario Götze is a fantastic signing. I would trade him for a number of people that have come over recently. I think he's a lot more fun to watch. And what I really interesting is, does MLS foul the bleep out of him?
That's part of it. Okay. And
that's a flashy player that wants to make moves.
This is not going to be shade on Cincinnati. It's a shade on MLS.
Yes.
But when a player with Mario Götze's pedigree at 28 decides to make the move to Major League Soccer, it says something, right? Like that guy doesn't move to Major League Soccer at 28 unless some stuff has gone wrong and he maybe doesn't have it in him to hack it at a decent level in Europe anymore.
That's no shade on Cincinnati though. If you get him, you just got a great car with low mileage at a good price. Go show it off downtown.
You are gambling though. Like again, that car's got some faulty stuff in it. Like it could blow up at any moment, and you might
German engineering though, baby. You know how they make cars.
No, but that's what I'm saying. This is the Volkswagen where they were faking all the
people's car.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying, there's some problems there.
They lied about the pollution that was given off.
Yeah.
Where you're going
I'll tell you this though: out of any player that's been signed as a large DP in the last year, I would tune in to watch Mario Götze. I'm not tuning in to watch a lot of these other guys that are being signed.
On the field, it's a great signing. But how much is he going to be on the field? That's my question.
How much is he going to be defending? That's the other question.
Well, yeah. And Bry has been from day one since this has been linked. Brian, you've been kind of beating this drum about how he would be player 1, 1A, 1B in Major League Soccer immediately.
I think he'd be right up there. I mean, Carlos Vela wasn't scoring double-digit goals his last 2 or 3 years in La Liga. So Götze, I mean, he had a rough year this past year, but I got to think he's got a shot there.
Okay. It's definitely a buy low situation. I mean, you're going to cost a lot of money by MLS standards, but it's a buy low situation on Mario Götze, because if he was at his level of 2 years ago, he's getting a gig somewhere in the Bundesliga. He's playing.
One thing before we move on from that, though, the one thing I'll say about Götze, as opposed to if you put him in the same conversation as Zlatan or Vela, Zlatan and Vela can make their own goals and make their own shots and make those scenarios over and over and over again. Götze can, but I don't think that's his game either. He's used to playing in structures where he has other people that help him get into good positions and take advantage of it. You're going to have a team around him. He's not going to take over a game the way Zlatan takes over a game, the way Vela takes over a game. There's a little bit there. Cincinnati's going to still have some tools to work with.
Let me ask you a question, Jared, and this isn't our show, so I don't want to completely steal it. But let me ask you.
Always the host. Always the host.
Well, yeah. Obviously, Mario gets it. I think you've already made it clear that you love him as a player. You've seen Alejandro Pozuelo do what he's done in Toronto already. Are you taking Mario Götze, not knowing what he's going to do in Major League Soccer, but knowing of his pedigree, maybe some concerns physically, or are you taking Alejandro Pozuelo right now?
I would take Pozuelo because he has Josie Altidore to make space for him and Akinola to make space for him.
Okay.
That's the difference. I think Götze is probably a better signing and potentially a better player, but Pozuelo's in a better team for what he does right now. And I think Cincinnati still a few people signed away before he could be taken advantage the way Pozuelo does.
But that's how he's going to be judged. Götze is going to be judged on the Pozuelo standard in terms of production, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I think we should ask Michael, the former professional Major League Soccer player, who would you rather have?
Pozuelo or Götze?
Yeah.
Ooh, man. It depends which Mario Götze shows up. If it's the one from the World Cup, I would take him. But look, you never know what's going to happen. I agree with some of the points you guys are making of, there might be a reason he's coming here. But you look at some of the guys that have come here, and David Villa, Robbie Keane, those guys, they could have come and not proven anything. Carlos Vela could have come on vacation, and he came around that same late 20s, early 30s.
Henry.
Thierry Henry.
Chicharito's still on vacation.
What you're saying, Michael, is that it's not why you come here, it's what you do once you get here.
Sure. Yeah.
Once you get off the plane, you get on the field, it's equal playing ground. Yeah. And you will know what type of player you're getting, and if that's the player you bought and signed up for, or if it's his twin brother, like Jose always calls Dele Alli. Is that your twin, or are you the real Dele Alli? So if you get a player like Mario Götze, that's one of the first questions that you're wanting to know. Are you the real Mario Götze from the German or from the World Cup? Are you back to form, or is this your twin that left Dortmund?
Let's say this then. As a former professional, and you're lining up against Götze, is your team talking about first foul on that dude? Let him know.
First foul, 10th foul.
10th,
yeah, 10th foul.
And that's the dangerous thing about Götze. Those kind of injuries have followed him. So how many fouls can he take in a league that's known for rough play? Not that the German league is not.
Yeah. No, that's a good question, and it's a good concern. I think a guy that had injuries as well, quite a bit of injuries, was Carlos Vela. When you saw him in La Liga, you saw him. He had a shorter stint at Arsenal, but when he got to La Liga, a big reason why we didn't see as many prolific goal scoring seasons was he wasn't available, and you got to see the likes of Antoine Griezmann step up. And look, to be a value to your team, you have to be available to play. I learned that very early in my career. Was half the time I got to play early on was, I had the ability, but I was just always available. And when I started getting injuries, I had a coach tell me once, look, you're no good to me. And that coach will remain anonymous. If he's listening, he knows who he is. But he would say, you're no good to me right now because you're not available. You're not healthy. So a healthy Mario Götze or a player of that caliber is a benefit to any team. A healthy, physically healthy, but mentally healthy.
I got a lot of girlfriends the same way. I was just the guy that was available.
You were there.
I was there.
Jeez. We did get this question from a listener. Wrong one. This is from the Gag. He says, if you had to place a definite bet one way or the other, does Götze end up in Major League Soccer in 2021? Whether it's FC Cincinnati, Miami, or anywhere else?
2021, I could say yes, because I think it could be August of next year. I think that's probably a more likely window that you potentially see him. I don't know. Is he out of contract right now or just out of favor? I'm not sure where he's at right now with Dortmund.
Out of contract.
Out of contract?
Out of contract right now, at this moment.
Then in that case, maybe it doesn't go to 21. If he signs somewhere, it'll be past 2021. I would say it's more likely 2020 than 2021 then, because if he makes it out of this window, he's not signing a 1 year somewhere. He's young enough. He's going to sign a multi-year somewhere.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if he's going to Major League Soccer, he's getting guaranteed money for as long as he can get it, knowing that, maybe he doesn't have the options to get paid at that level. Because, this is always the question. Does a player like that who has fallen out of favor at a big club that's shooting for Champions League every year, decide to go down the table, 10 spots, and maybe end up at a club that could be fighting for relegation, fighting for to stay up at any given season? Does he maybe switch leagues and go play for a big club in a smaller league? Or does he say, okay, American lifestyle, guaranteed paycheck, less of a spotlight on me, so not as much attention from a media that might be saying, hey, Mario, why aren't you at your standard you were for the national
Less
team?
media. No one knows who he is here. He's going to be anonymous.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And obviously there are some guys, and if you've been through what Mario Götze has been through physically, you probably want to be avoiding. You don't want to be have the media coming after you.
And socially, everyone wants to know who he's dating.
What'd you say?
Married to.
Socially, everyone wants to know who he's dating.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, when that is off the table, this is why Carlos Vela thrives in Major League Soccer, right, Michael? Because he doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff. He can just go about his life and play soccer because he's
turned down Mexico and keep playing.
There you go.
He'll be 29 next June.
Woo, sexy.
So, I mean, Nani's 33, so who cares? That's my stock answer to anyone questions the age of a player. I say, well, Nani's 33.
Well, he would definitely be if he signs. If he signs in Cincinnati, if he signs in Major League Soccer, he's the youngest A-level DP in Major League Soccer at that moment, right? Because there's nobody else in their 20s that even come close to Mario.
Is he the most marketable athlete in Cincinnati if he comes here?
No.
No? Who's more marketable than him?
You mean in Cincinnati?
In Cincinnati.
Oh, it's Joe Burrow. It's not even a question.
Yeah, Tiger King.
Oh, geez.
I mean, I'm just being honest.
No, cool. Yeah.
Number one draft
I honestly
pick.
don't know. I don't pay attention to a lot of Cincinnati
I don't
sports.
expect you to follow the Cincinnati Bungles. Don't
But he's
worry.
a very marketable kid,
Yes. So we obviously you two focus primarily on a lot of national team, U.S. women's national team with some news the last couple of days. In particular, Rose Lavelle. Looks like she's going to be applying her trade overseas. She's going to be one of those Euro soccer players now, Jared, playing for Man City. What are your thoughts on her potential move over there? And is it good for her progression?
For Rose? Oh, man. For Sam Mewis, for some reason, it felt a lot more natural. I don't know why that is.
Why
it's her
is
style
that?
of game. I don't know. Maybe it's the style of game. I feel like Rose's game
Hold on.
is
Sam Mewis feels like an English soccer player, and Rose Lavelle seems like not.
Spanish,
Okay.
French. I mean, honestly, like it seems her style of play just seems different to me. Now, I think what really happening, and here's what, as a national team fan, I'm glad that those two are playing together because that's your duo for the next 10 years. That's the if you're looking 10 years out.
I feel like that's hard on Lindsey Horan, but fine. That's
no,
okay.
but this is she's a replacement for Ertz, not Joe. I mean, Ertz is probably a lot more defensive minded than Mewis has to be.
Yeah,
She's more of a two-way player, but Horan can be more of the Ertz replacement. I think those two players getting the opportunity to build more chemistry, play together more often, is a good thing for the national team. The question then becomes, is it a good thing for NWSL and the women's national team overall from a developmental standpoint that their biggest stars are going overseas? That's the question to me.
Yeah, one thing is, talking about this, where I kind of come up against a barrier is I don't know anything about the English league. I don't. I know
Roosevelt's going to be on highlight reel. She's going to be like, she can leave chicks in her dust. Other than who's the right back for the English national team?
I know who you're talking about.
Why am I blanking? I'm blanking on her name right now. But other than her, Rose Lavelle is going to be on it's going to be a mixtape, dude. It's going to be like and one. She's just going to be like over and over breaking ankles, man, crossing people up. Get ready. There's going to be some fun YouTube videos.
But that's where that's where the question comes in, right? As to, and Nick, you said something about development. I don't think Rose Lavelle needs to develop necessarily at this point, but you want to stay at that level. You want to maintain that competitive edge.
Be pushed.
And what has always been the question for American women is, are you going to get as good a game in Europe as you do in the NWSL? And I know that's hard. That's a hard thing for American soccer fans to process, that the better league, the higher level of competition is in America, not in Europe. But as I've said several times, it doesn't really matter if it's men's or women's. You slap that Champions League label on something, everybody wants to go play for it.
Here's the conversation is the fifth place team in the women's EPL better or worse than the fifth place team in WSL? It's worse.
Yeah, way worse. I don't think there's any question.
There's the drop off. You're playing Chelsea and Arsenal as Man City. Cool. You're getting great level of competition. Olympique Lyon in the Champions League. You're getting great level of competition. But week in, week out, you're playing the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th team in the EPL Women's League. you're not playing those same teams in NWSL, and that's where I think that there might be a potential drop off to her game as a result.
The quality of play, yeah. Is it fair though to wonder, like here you mentioned Rose and Sam and their partnership. Well, that's important to everyone here. It's important to any club that they play for at the NWSL. Man City probably doesn't care about that. And I don't know a lot about the English women's game, but I know Man City's made a lot of moves with their women's team. They signed Chloe Kelly, who was one of the top young strikers in England just recently. Are they going to say, oh yeah, this is important that you two partner up and kind of develop so you can be better for the American national team? So you have to wonder, is it productive from that respect for her to be in England, for either of them to be in England?
If it puts trophies in Man City's cabinet, it is. And I think it is. I think that partnership, we've seen at the U.S. national team, there's a friendship there as well. And I think they have an unspoken relationship on the field. You just see them combined all the time. So for Man City, it's marketable to have two of the big name U.S. star players. They're cute as hell together on anytime they're around each other, and also they have potential. These aren't signings where you bring, like an MLS, where you bring in a name and then they're past their prime and it's just a name, it's marketing, it's selling jerseys. They'll sell jerseys and be good.
Sure.
So I think for Man City, there's a risk, but I don't think they're thinking about NWSL or USA or anything like that. I think they're selfish. They're trying to get trophies for Man City. And if that's the case, they're the players to do it.
Just one more thing on this. I think that obviously for the U.S. women's national team players, it's about that paradigm of, okay, where should we be playing our club soccer? U.S. Soccer wants them to be playing in NWSL because it helps NWSL. Usually the national team coaches want them to be playing in NWSL because the competition level is higher and it's easier to evaluate them. But if we're going to get to a place where these women are making more money and doing better on the club side so that the national team program doesn't have to subsidize their club contracts, or just women in general are recognized for what they're doing on the field, then we need clubs like Manchester City, who has dumb money, to come in and throw some of that at players like...
There ain't any young woman in America that was going to buy a Man City jersey this year before 2 weeks ago. There wasn't. Not a single Man City jersey was going to get sold in the U.S. with a women's player's name on it until now. It's a win-win. I don't see how it's a bad deal for Man City in any way. It could only be a bad thing for potentially their long-term growth for the U.S. national team. That's why I see it, at least.
All right, guys. On a lighter note, real quick, before we wrap this up here, who came up with the name Nikki Soup and Sausage?
I'm taking credit for that one.
Usually I'm pretty good with the names. That one's Jason.
I don't even remember. I was thinking about this the other day.
Superling.
Because we were going through, I don't know, we were just talking about Nick Superling, and then I said if he was Italian, he was in the mafia, he'd have one of those names like Joey Pants. He'd be Nicky Soup and Sausage. It just came out. So now he's Nicky Soup and Sausage. He's and my wife didn't get it right. She's like, Nicky Potato and Vegetables.
There ain't no vegetables going into Nick. I see
no vegetables.
Pop-Tarts and Chipotle and McDonald's on the screen all the time.
It is kind of funny when I'm producing their show and not being on camera or on mic, and I'm chowing down dinner while they're doing the show. It's kind of funny.
I was just saying, Nick, is this the most you've actually talked on air with the two of these guys?
I think you're right. I think I probably
shows.
No, we did bonus shows.
Yeah, you did the one. Yeah, you did the show.
On the bonus shows, we find out how little movies Nick
Pop
has ever
culture in
seen.
general.
Are you guys familiar with how few movies Nick has seen that are like cultural touchstones? It's amazing.
If you're like, that's one of the most important movies the last 30 years, Nick has not seen it. It's 100% shit.
Oh, look, he's got notes. He made a list once.
Well, no, I was cleaning off my desk this weekend to make things nice down here, and I found the list I made of all the movies I have and haven't seen.
Give him a couple. Just let him know. What's a couple you haven't seen?
All right, so should we play a game?
I mean,
I'll give you three movies. I'll give you three movies. Two of them I have seen and one I have not seen. Sound good?
Okay.
All right.
We're guessing one you have not. We're guessing which
you're guessing the movie that I have not seen.
Okay.
All right. So we'll go Dodgeball, Step Brothers, and A Few Good Men.
Oh.
It's inexcusable that you haven't seen all three of those movies, by the way.
That most people, and when I say most people, I mean most of humanity. The 7 billion people on the planet have seen all three of those movies. I think. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I know one of them he has seen. I'm not going to let it out though. There's for sure one that I know we've talked about that he's seen.
Okay, you guys I'm going to go with
Dodgeball.
You think he has not seen Dodgeball?
I think he has not seen Dodgeball, and that's just me personally. That's what I'm going with. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, feel free. I don't want to soil your guesses.
I can go with A Few Good Men.
Okay. I can go. I'm going to take Step Brothers just to differentiate from Jared. Yeah, I think he's seen A Few Good Men. I think so.
Michael, you got a guess?
I'd say usually pretty funny, but I'd say Dodgeball. I think you missed out on that one.
Okay, Bri?
Step Brothers.
Jeff is correct. I have not seen A Few Good Men.
What?
Wow.
No. I mean, that would be
Can't handle the
the
truth.
obvious choice.
I knew he had seen Step
Yeah.
Brothers because we play the. Oh no, I'm sorry. We play. We just became best friends. We played that drop,
Yeah.
so I knew he had seen that movie, but I wasn't sure. But A Few Good Men. Oh, you're missing
That's a classic.
out,
It's a
dude.
really good movie.
Please tell me you've seen Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, no.
man.
Yes,
He's
I have.
not.
not. What? I thought you hadn't.
Oh man.
Okay.
Okay.
That movie was filmed in Ohio.
See, this
I've
is the only
been-
reason
I've
he's
been to
watched
the
it. This is
penitentiary
latest
where it
reason
was
ever
filmed.
that someone's seen Shawshank Redemption.
There you go.
I think it's a crime that you haven't seen 1992 Demi Moore. That's all I got to say.
I've seen other movies in the 90s of Demi Moore, and we'll just leave it at that. All right. I appreciate you both coming on. Jason, I do have to take umbrage with you and your scarf. For some reason, you thought it was a good idea to show up with a Louisville City scarf behind you.
And,
now
you know my
pain.
and a crew one.
There's a crew one right there.
Oh.
too.
Rivals.
This is how I feel. He
Yeah.
wears LAFC gear all the time around me. He's just a jerk.
It wasn't a legitimate troll. I just didn't have anything else handy. I'm sorry. Okay.
We just
That
need to
was
get you.
totally
Do you even have an FCC scarf?
I do not have an FC Cincinnati scarf.
Come on, Jeff Burden, get on that.
I don't buy scarves. Okay. I
Oh,
don't
we
buy
know.
them because
I'm
people
too good
send
for
them to me. Jared's got mad because people send Jared stuff, so I don't get hate from
No,
him.
because I actually am a fan of a club, so I can't just rock other people's gear. Like you're a fence sitting
I
neutral.
think
so
you
can
would be
rock.
amazing.
You're for hire.
if LAFC and San Jose just airdropped.
What's it like to love nothing?
This
Puerto
is the
Rican food.
taste. Yeah, go ahead, Michael. You got a question?
Yeah, Jared, my
Oh.
family's out in Los Angeles, so I
Okay.
totally get the LAFC Galaxy rivalry.
Uh-huh.
Personal question for you. Did
it.
you get officially named president of the Chicharito fan club yet? Or no?
Oh, dude, I would be a worse president than the one we already have. if you want me to, you think you've seen gutting of a system? Wait till I became president of the Chicharito fan club. I would gut that. I mean, it's here's the thing. I'll be on the train as soon as he does something, do something, and then I'll be on the train. All he did was score a consolation goal and missed 2 goals from 6 feet out, and then got hurt and went home. He ain't done nothing yet, man.
No, he
Like
ain't done anything yet.
there's too much. Eventually, long term, maybe he'll be okay. But I just never saw him to be the right fit.
I
I'm never going to be the president of that fan club.
I'll give Jared credit. He was never on board with Chicharito Hernandez in LA. He was never like, that's a great signing. He'll connect with the community. He's a big Mexican star. He can obviously He was always like, this is a waste of money. Don't do this, especially because right now the Galaxy are trying to put band-aids on gaping wounds. So that's just not going to work.
Yeah. So I please urge your family in LA to be a Galaxy fan, but don't ever sign a petition that has a Chicharito fan club on it. Short-lived.
Oh man. Well, Jared, Jason, I appreciate you being on the show. This, by the way, this last half hour is just a taste of what you get on the Best Soccer Show, right?
If you want way more of that,
If you like
I know.
chaos the way you've heard the last 30 minutes, you'll enjoy it.
minus the drops, right?
Here we go.
Appreciate you being on the show. Tell folks where they can find the Best Soccer Show, what the recording schedule is going to be like, some of the recent guests you've had.
well, we just, like I said, you'd already set it up. We just came back as the Best Soccer Show. So the 2.0 version started off with an interview with Ernie Stewart. We went straight into talking about the national team, both men and women's national team this past yesterday. My brain is scrambled. It's been weird. We had Brendan Aronson, 19-year-old midfield phenom for the Philadelphia Union on the
Hotness.
show. He is out. That podcast is out today, so you can go find that. It's the Best Soccer Show everywhere. It's Besties Soccer on Twitter. It is the Best Soccer Show on Instagram. It's on iTunes. It's on Stitcher and TuneIn and what else? Pod.
And we're looking for
Pocket
probably
Cast.
Monday, Thursday drops for the near future. We're still working out some scheduling stuff, but it looks like it can be 2 a week for at least
And look,
for a while
just,
now.
just like Cincinnati Soccer Talk, we are live at least once a week. That's a Sunday show at the moment. So if you're 9 o'clock on Sundays is usually when we're live. You can find us on YouTube at The Best Soccer Show.
Awesome, guys. Again, really appreciate you being on the show. Like I said, I've been a huge fan of yours for many, many years. Maybe someday I'll dig up the audition video I created to be part of Soccer Morning many, many years ago. But again, appreciate you being on the show and looking forward to what you got in store with The Best Soccer Show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
That's Jared DuBois and Jason Davis of The Best Soccer Show joining us here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'll tell you what, that 35 minutes just absolutely flew by. And you probably heard me laughing quite a bit during that segment. When I'm producing their show, I'm like in tears laughing because of the things that Jared says. It's like The Odd Couple, only with soccer. You got Jason, the straight guy, Jared, the funny guy. I don't know. I don't know what you guys all thought, but I certainly enjoyed that.
My favorite segment, they can't really do much anymore. We can really say it's on the show as when they watch Game of Thrones, that special segment, Nick. No, yeah. I get this after, I've listened to these guys for years and all their different incarnations of the show, JD and the Rod. And I've always wondered who is the voice of that kid who says the best soccer show in the whole world.
That is Jared's son.
I figured it might've been, things I should have asked live. No, they're great. They're great to listen to.
Wow. Yeah, that 35 minutes absolutely flew by. There was some stuff we wanted to discuss, but I think we could shelve it for next week, hopefully. Or nope. Let's, you know what? I want to dive into it. We've got some time. What do we got to do, right? We want to talk soccer. That's what we do here.
We've got nowhere to be. The four.
Dig it, man. I dig it.
So phase one of the next segment, I guess you could say, of the season starts on Friday. FC Cincinnati hosting DC United. They will then go on the road on August 25th against the Chicago Fire. Then they will host Hell is Real August 29th against the Crew. Then a schedule change. What was originally supposed to be September 1st is now September 2nd. FC Cincinnati will host Chicago Fire at 7:30 p.m. Then on the 6th of September, they will go to Columbus to take on the Crew. And then on the 12th of September, they head to New York City FC to play. Wow, that's weird, to play at Red Bull Arena. Kind of weird. So you three, what are your expectations for these next 6 games? Is there a point total that you're looking for FC Cincinnati to achieve here? Obviously, they've got some pretty tough opponents here in the Crew twice. And we know what the Crew already did to FC Cincinnati once this year. But what are your expectations? I'll start with the professor, Jeff Wellner.
I actually have handwritten on my pad here each of those 6 matches and a point total.
Oh,
I did my homework.
It's like I read your mind.
I actually studied for the podcast. But no, I think I'm optimistic coming out of Orlando. And I think I'm looking at 10 points out of those 6 matches. That's assuming 2 losses to Columbus. But I feel good about our chances on Friday against DC United. I feel good about our chances against NYFC. I think we can come away with 4 points from Chicago. And we'll just, take our beating by Columbus, which I think a lot of clubs will this year, and come away with 10 points and still be in an excellent position for the playoffs after that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess I look at this and I'm wondering, the Fire didn't advance to the knockout stage. New York City SC barely did, right? I mean, they got in by the skin of their teeth, and then they actually advanced around. So I guess it really depends, Michael, which NYCFC team shows up. And not weird to be playing in Red Bull Arena.
Oh, it's 2020. It goes along with the theme of this year, and I'll just stick with that. But look, when it comes to these restart games playing in your home market, that home field advantage kind of goes away. So there's more. It's been proven. We've seen European leagues. We saw it a little bit with FC Dallas coming back and playing Nashville. Your home field advantage, it becomes a neutral game almost. And you're not playing in the confines of what you're used to, but the guys have been in a bubble. The guys have been in a tournament in Orlando for a long time. When I look at this first matchup, we will know where this FC Cincinnati team is heading in these first 6 games starting Friday. I think DC is a great opponent to start with. They were in total disarray. One thing they have in their favor is that they got a lot of time. That's what happens when you're poo-poo. You get to go home and you get to practice and hopefully get better. So we'll see if DC United did their homework. Ben Olsen has a history of getting his guys fired up, but DC has a massive weakness. They don't have a striker, and they have a midfield that's trying to find themselves with Gressel, Assad on the other side. We talk about Columbus, the former Columbus hitman, Pepita Higuain. He's a danger man whenever he comes on. We'll see if Ben Olsen plays him, but I think this is a game where, from an offensive standpoint, I think FC Cincinnati should really go for it. And how the team is built with the midfield and the back, 5, with Columbus, it's probably going to be a back 10. Just to get, I'm just being a dork. But before we get to the Columbus game, I think it starts with how we do with DC and which FC Cincinnati comes out. Chicago is one at home, go for it. On the road, you have a recipe for success with some of the tactics you did in the bubble. And Chicago's a team that gives up goals. They have a new manager, they have a bunch of new players, and they play a lot of young guys. And there's a lot of frailties at their back line. And they're good in transition on the counter, but they're actually a poor defensive transition team. And when we get to Columbus, well, look, Columbus in the bubble, their bubble got broken. So they're beatable. For as great as they are, they played right into Minnesota's hands. So that is a game that they're exposed. They can be exposed based on having a very tactically sound game. And to finish up with NYCFC, man, they're the team that plays at whatever stadium will take them. Yankee Stadium's there. I'm throwing shots today, man. MLS is coming back, so I got to get up my game. It's them not being able to play at Yankee Stadium. I don't think will phase them that much, but I think it bodes well for FC Cincinnati to get an NYCFC who's also trying to figure it out. So look, FC Cincinnati is on the up and up. There's confidence that's brewing and should be brewing even more based on how they did in the tournament. And we'll find out how it all shakes up starting Friday. I'm expecting a win for sure against DC to start things off.
Yeah, and I go back to that last match against DC United, Bry. Remember the 9. Ben Olsen's team failed to score that day against 9-man FC Cincinnati.
Just no pregame speeches or halftime speeches involved there. No. I'm going to keep this to a micro level again. If we can get 18 games the rest of the year, I'd look at that as a blessing. These 6 matches are a blessing to keep seeing our team play right now. So I want to see some improvement, trying to get back to that 4-3-3. I do, and when the match dictates, like Michael said, versus Columbus, when we go to that 5-3-2, if we can try at least going to that 4-3-3 or work in a little bit more offensive tactically, speaking kind of where we want to be in 2021, I kind of want to see that. I do want to win matches too, so there is that pragmatic approach. But seeing if Harrison Dunanan if he's going to be a long-term piece, or Sim De Jong's going to be a long-term piece, seeing those two guys, De Jong had a great little end of the tournament there in Orlando to Locadia. But if we can at least see who the spine of the team's going to be going forward, and just see if Cruz, see how he can come back from his injury, Frankie, if he can keep improving, those things is what I said, just keep the ball rolling down the hill towards next season.
The biggest thing for me that I want to see is, how does Jurgen Locadia react, right? We hadn't seen him play all tournament. And then he steps up in the biggest game of the year for FC Cincinnati, buries a crucial penalty, and a perfect penalty at that. And then he misses the sitter. And then it affected him in the penalty shootout. I want to know which striker comes back to FC Cincinnati rearing to go. Are we going to get the guy who showed up in Red Bull Arena however many months ago, firing on all cylinders like he's been playing all along? Or are we going to get the one that was shell-shocked down in Orlando? That's what I'm interested to see. So hopefully we get the one that showed up back at Red Bull Arena and scared the Red Bulls a little bit. But we want to hear from you, FCC fans. Get in touch. What do you want to see this weekend against DC United and from these next 6 matches. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com is the email address. Don't forget to rate and review the show on iTunes. Get subscribed to Cincinnati Soccer Talk so you don't miss a single episode of the show. We've got March to Match Day coming up this week. We grabbed Boston from his PTO and said, hey, you are recording, gosh darn it. And so he will be recording a podcast this week with the evil twin Brad Weigel. I say that lovingly,
Yes.
of course, Bradley. But those two do a great job with March to Match Day. And of course, we'll also have a Talking Tactics with Coach Goff a little bit later on this week as well. So get subscribed to all of our podcasts. And while you're at it, rate and review the show. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Apple Podcasts is where you can do that. It certainly helps from a visibility standpoint that helps people find the show in the different podcast directories. All right. This was a very fun show this week. I will start with the professor, Jeff Wallner. Jeff, appreciate you being on the show. Any final words for this week?
Yeah, ton of fun as always. Just excited about Friday night's match and kind of anticipating how strange it will be to walk into an empty Nippert Stadium and cover a match. It's I of course did Reds opening day, so I've had a little bit of a sense of it, but it's going to be strange. It's going to be odd. It's going to be very unfortunate to not have the best fans in MLS packing Nippert Stadium on Friday night, but we're playing soccer, and I think we're all excited about that. And yeah, I agree with Michael. I think we'll see a win on Friday night. So hopefully everyone will be watching, albeit afar and not within the confines of Nippert Stadium. But it'll be fun. I'm excited about it.
Well, again, Jeff, appreciate you being on the show. As always, appreciate the fine effort you put in with CST, and enjoy the match Friday night.
Thank you.
All right. Final thoughts from Brian Weigel. Brian, appreciate you being on the show, bud.
Absolutely. Just keep getting some messages here. It's going to be interesting next couple of days, I think, gentlemen. Couple things. Want to give a shout out to our boy, Ryan Sparks, who's been doing all the Cincinnati Dutch Lions coverage for us. I know that's very sad news that they are not going to be playing, but he's come in the clutch here, Nick. He's got some Emmanuel Ledesma news for us.
Oh, really? Spill
Yeah.
it.
So I think we all saw on social media that Ledesma is on his way somewhere to play, and we've narrowed it down to Finland, the Finnish league. So we're trying to get some more information there, but Ryan's hunting that down. So do have some sad news for all you bring back Ledesma people, but it looks like our guy is at least continuing his professional career in Finland. Secondly, I think we're going to try to do a watch along this Friday night. So stay tuned on our social media platforms to get more information out there. So we'll see what happens. Just very excited to watch some orange and blue again.
And hopefully you'll get to watch it on that brand spanking new patio you got at your house. I know you're excited about that.
I hope so. I can't wait to get wrecked and watch games out there.
Good stuff, Brian. Appreciate you as always, buddy.
You too, pal.
All right. Last but not least, to the pro, Michael Lahoud. Michael, thanks for being on the show this week. Thanks for folks who don't know. We're gonna pull back the curtain a little bit.
Oh man,
It's about.
Did my girlfriend tell you to do this?
No. So it's like 8:30, right? And it's a long running joke amongst CSTers that when the show starts at 9, you need to be ready at 8:30. Boston shows up at like 8:59 and 45 seconds. So he does not abide by the rule. But so I get a text from Michael that says he's lost his gear. And I'm like, what do you mean? How? What? Huh? What? So we're thinking he isn't. So he's like trying to find his gear. He can't find it. I'm thinking he's not going to be on the show tonight. And then like at 8:57, he finds it and he's here. And we are so thankful that you are, Michael.
Thank you. Oh, that was a lot lighter than where I was thinking this was going. Hey, I thank you for saying that. And it's good to be back. And geez, I'm excited not just to be back on the show, but I'm even more excited that the one constant during this whole pandemic of a year has been soccer. Other sports are trying to figure it out. And there's a time when we didn't think soccer was going to happen. And the fact that we are prepping for a game is a big deal, and we're prepping for a game in home markets. I think soccer really has the capacity to make a difference, and I hope that soccer in the city of Cincinnati starting this Friday is a force for good and a force for change. So that's my soapbox speech, and I'll leave it at that.
Well said, Michael. Well said. And again, appreciate you being on the show, man.
Thank you very much.
My final thoughts. Again, thank you to everybody who tuned in live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. My thanks to Laurel Pfahler. Go check her stuff out. Patreon.com/Laurel Pfahler FC Cincinnati. She does a great job covering the team, and really glad that she had a chance to come on the show tonight. And of course, go check out the Best Soccer Show. Jason Davis and Jared DuBois. They crack me up all the time. I appreciate them being on the show tonight as well. That's going to do it for episode 220 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. For Brian Weigel, the professor, Jeff Wallner, and the pro, Michael LaHood. I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next week.